Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees. And it's official, the New York Yankees are your 2019 American League East champions, capturing the feat and the title on their 100th win of the season. For the Yankees, it's the first time since 2012 that they've actually been American League East champions. Only the past two times they've been in the playoffs, it's usually been a wild card, and they twice had to go through that one-game wild card where, in 2015 against Houston, they got bounced. Now last year against Oakland, they won at home, great. But at least, as a champion, you're going to have, it's going to be a best-of-5 series, so even if you have a clunker in Game 1, it's not the end of the world. And for manager Aaron Boone, he becomes the first manager in baseball history to win 100 games in his first two seasons as manager. 100, 200, you get the picture. And this also puts the Yankees in the driver's seat in terms of how they want to approach October. Usually when you're in a wild card hunt, it's really almost every day is a playoff game, and you got to play all your best players, and you kind of run everyone to the ground, and then by the time you get to the playoffs, everyone's burnt. So now with the Yankees, what they could do is they can pretty much control how they want to play it out. They can rest some guys here. They don't have to push anyone too hard. If someone has a cramped knee, cramped bad leg, so they can rest guys up. They don't have to force anyone because they know, well, they made the playoffs. Now, it's all going to be a matter of what seed they're in. Them and the Houston Astros are neck and neck. The Yankees could be the 1 seed, could be the 2 seed probably. I don't think they would drop to 3 or 4. Obviously, they're not going to be a wild card team. So it's really how they want to play it. Is important to be the number 1 seed and get home field advantage all the way out, or do you want? Is it better to rest the guys? So the Yankees, going to have to decide how they want to play this out. I personally think the Yankees are going to land at the number 2 seed just because the way Houston's a couple games ahead of them, and I just don't think the Yankees are going to burn their bullpen out. That just be the number 1 seed. I think this is the way the Yankees play with Aaron Boone. I think they'd rather rest the players. And on the injury front, the Yankees got a couple of familiar faces that you kind of knew were coming back. Mainly, the important one was Luis Severino. A couple of starts in the minors and now up in the big leagues. Has looked well, so you know what? He's a viable option now as a starter. Probably not going to go 7 innings, but even if you get 4.5 or 5 innings out of him, it's money. Stanton's been back, but unfortunately, I don't know if, they'll probably put him on the postseason roster, but early on, he hasn't looked great from the start. But the only, good thing with him, or at least, his path is that both Edwin Encarnacion had suffered an oblique injury. Now, I think for the two of them, I'd rather have Edwin because he just, he played a full season. He just seems like right now he's in a better place than Stanton is. But with this oblique injury, you just never know. Chances are maybe he's not there, and then it's an opportunity that opens for Stanton. That's a possibility. Dylan Betances, who was great, he was going to answer his great bullpen already. Pitches 1 game, feels fine, and then he has like a possibly partial tear down his calf. So his season's done. That's kind of a blow because you're kind of depending on that guy. And a real bad one's going to be with Gary Sanchez. He was finally back, finally healthy, looking great, and then he has that same groin injury he seems to always have. He's going to be questionable, and again, that's another big bat that that you whip depending on it in the playoffs, but possibly you don't see him as well. So, the Yankees got some guys back, but now they lost some new guys. And a warning no one ever saw was that the Yankees' ace, Domingo Germán, is unfortunately not going to be available for the playoffs. Involved in a domestic dispute situation, and MLB came down initially and gave him a 7-game suspension, which is standard, but then looks like there's an investigation from Major League Baseball as well as the Players Union, and it's based on what I guess they hear in these reports, he will not be available for the postseason. So now the Yankees technically don't have their ace to go in. So another big blow for this team. Especially going against like the Houston Astros with like Verlander and Cole and a whole great rotation. Now the Yankees lose a big arm like Germán, kind of a blow. Supposedly had an altercation with a girlfriend, might have hit her, we don't know yet, but the fact that, they say he's done for the season, he probably did it, it's really a shame because he was having a great season for the Yankees, a breakout season, and now he has this dark cloud over his head. A couple weeks ago in Detroit, they had him actually come out of the bullpen, and it was possibly the way they're going to run this in the playoffs is that kind of what you saw with Boston Red Sox do last season with Nathan Eovaldi. Maybe a little start, maybe comes out of the bullpen for 4 innings, maybe he's your closer. Got to be a jack of all trades. Again, I just don't think he had the arm strength. They were going to put him out there to go like a full 7 innings like that. But he was going to be a really valuable weapon for the Yankees, and especially if you get one of these like blood and guts Game 7s that go extra innings, that's a valuable weapon that the Yankees now lost. And I don't know, maybe Happ is not going to be that guy. I don't think CC is going to be a guy. Possibly Severino's that guy, but really losing a major weapon. I'll say the Yankees, it's a backbreaker, but losing Germán was pretty much a major blow. Now the Yankees want to end the season with possibly some planned appearances by CC Sabathia out of the bullpen, so he could be the option there. And not terrible. Let's just say a big spot against another lefty. If you need to get 1 big out, I can live with that. But if he's starting a game, that's it's pretty much bad news. The only good news on the Yankee pitching front lately has been Canada's favorite son, James Paxton, kind of now rounding into the forms of that pitcher again that the Yankees thought they were getting at the start of the season. Maybe just took a little while to get it acclimated, get his stuff down, but really, going into playoffs the way you want to, throwing the ball strong, and he's someone, for a number 2 starter, you feel confident going that game with, and again, maybe he could be that wild card, this person that just shines in the playoffs that no one expected coming. He's got the stuff, throws high 90s as a left-hander, has the opportunity to dominate, and he's had some really good performances this season, like some 12 strikeout type performances. Maybe that's the type of person you can match up with a Verlander. So it's just good, with all these pitches going down or pitches coming back but not fully healthy. At least you have someone like James Paxton. Tanaka you feel good about too, but really Paxton's the one who could really, pick up the missing pieces, as they say. But even injuries and some guys coming back, you just look at this Yankee roster. The starters who have been there all season, kind of the unsung heroes like the Gio Urshela, though you still feel very good about this roster. I actually feel better about it than last year's roster going to the playoffs. Got a lot more contact hitters, got a little better defense. So going into it, you feel much better. It's just, can they knock off the big bad Houston Astros, or is some team going to come out of nowhere like the Oakland A's, become a wild card team and kind of knock the Yankees off? Remains to be seen, of course. But of course, this in terms of confidence, the team. You like the squad probably better than 17, and you like them much better than 18, that's for sure. So we got a little extra special treat for you. Bobby C. Now you can catch him 3 times a week on BronxNet. Show open, streams as well. If you're not living in the Bronx, it's your fault if you don't live in the Bronx. He also does games for Fordham. He does games for Iona. Big time guy at WFUV. He's all over the place, but luckily enough, we get him for a few minutes to talk a little Yankees. So, hey, Bobby, how you doing?
Hey, James, how's it going? Great to see you.
Great.
You got a wonderful show, man. I love watching.
All right, thank you very much. And I was just, I see you. I met you first, on BronxNet. I think you were doing the sports wrap up, and of course, Bernardo put us in touch. So. I just figured, with the playoffs just about to start, maybe we'll just go over some key issues, just kind of, shoot the breeze.
Of course.
The first one I think is going to be, we unfortunately heard the news with Domingo Germán, not available in the postseason roster. So do you think now that opens up a spot for like J. Happ, who I didn't even want to get a postseason start, or maybe CC Sabathia? How do you think they handle that?
It looks like they probably will go with an opener in one of those postseason games. If most Yankee fans that have watched the season have seen the success of what Chad Green has been able to do
Absolutely.
in an opener kind of role. You already saw yesterday that CC Sabathia said he'd be more than happy to try coming out of the bullpen. So I would assume, I think it's a good way to speculate here, that more than likely Green would get the opening start. Sabathia could be one of those first guys out of the bullpen. But it remains to be seen who the other starters would be. You got to think Tanaka's a given.
Absolutely.
Paxton's a given.
Absolutely.
But it is possible that Happ could get a start.
But it could get started, and because I was thinking about it too, okay, great, Severino's back, but is he really a starter yet? Because I know they're building up the arm straight, but you might have a situation, maybe you got to use openers in 2 of the games.
In 2 of the games, yeah. I think it's definitely possible that you could see CC and Severino both out of the bullpen in, let's say, a Game 4 situation. I think the only givens are probably Tanaka and Paxton.
Yeah.
And from the sounds of it, Boone has said that the only guy that he probably would allow some length in a postseason game, maybe 3 times through the order, is Paxton.
Yeah,
so he's going to rely on the bullpen.
Oh yeah, it's going to be heavy bullpen. And I just like, the way Paxton's just coming into October. He was kind of excited to get him, and the regular season's been a little up and down, but he's really coming to form. He's been a start against the Dodgers, and just lately he's been like lights out. So at least you feel more confident. Paxton's like a guy you could kind of rely on. Tanaka you can rely on, but I just think, same thing, I don't think they trust him to go more than twice through the batting order.
I think it's fair to say Paxton's the ace at the moment based on what you've seen, but in the postseason, recent success for Tanaka, pretty much his entire Yankee career, to be honest with you, would probably suggest that he would get the Game 1 start. Paxton would probably get the Game 2 start.
Yeah, and then just take it from there.
But the Germán news is definitely a huge blow to the Yankee.
And I think they would maybe not start a game. I think they'll kind of use him like the way they used Boston used Eovaldi last season. Just have this great arm out of the bullpen where maybe he can spot start, maybe he goes 4 innings, maybe he pitches 1 inning, maybe they use up Chapman and he needs to pitch the 13th inning. So not having that weapon, I think I don't say it's a fatal blow, but it's kind of a really big blow.
Yeah, listen, that's been the story the entire season for the Bronx Bombers is how much more can they have to endure, how much more can they have to go through in order to get where they want to go. All the injuries, and now even something like this isn't even an injury, but it kind of counts like an injury, Patansis comes back, throws 8 pitches, and he's out.
That doesn't happen to any other team.
No.
And he pitched great, and it's just like the celebration.
2 strikeouts,
Yeah.
Thank God, though, that he probably doesn't have to have surgery, so maybe his Yankee career will continue, or even if it doesn't, it looks like he'll be back in time for the start of the season. So maybe if he doesn't sign with the Yankees, he could sign elsewhere and pitch again, because he's been a really good Yankee.
Oh, he's been good.
Homegrown talent, a New York guy.
I think they like him, like early on in his career, there's a little bumpiness and stuff if he's going to be a starter. But no, I think they do bring him back for 2020. So, you got the postseason roster now. Aaron Boone has to make a lot of tough choices. Now, the
Only
Yankees,
25 guys.
Only. And they're loaded with power, and it's right-handed power. So, how do you think they played out in terms of, there's only so many available spots. So let's say you got someone, very similar type players like Stanton, right-handed power hitter. Luke Voit, right-handed power hitter, first base. And Edwin Encarnacion, now we're not so sure if he's going to come back from that oblique injury. But again, right-handed power hitter / first base. So let's say you got to pick 2 out of 3. Which one? Who's the odd man out?
Wow.
And you look at someone like Stanton making $1 gazillion. He's a great player, but obviously we saw he perform last season in the postseason. Wasn't good at all. And this season, I don't blame him. And you hurt. But it's been a bust season. So do you put him on the postseason, or do you give the nod to someone like Luke Voit?
Wow, tough question, but I would say 100% you're going to see Stanton on the postseason roster. I think there's too much invested by the Yankees not to have Stanton on the roster. And there's also that sentiment by Cashman and the organization that Giancarlo is the kind of player that at any point in time could wreck a series. He would have that kind of Reggie Jackson effect where even through the first few games, if he strikes out a ton or doesn't play pretty well, he could come back the next game and maybe hit 3 home runs in a game. He's that kind of talent. You don't win the National League MVP award and be a perennial all-star and be the kind of player that he's been without potentially being that kind of game wrecker. But to answer your question, I think it will depend on what Encarnacion does in that final series. He's expected back for that final road series in September before the playoffs. If he's healthy, he has to be on the postseason roster because he's been one of the best power hitters in the game the last few years, and he's also been a little more clutch probably than Stanton has been, even though it's a tough thing probably to say for people. But if it had to be between I have to take one of those 3 out.
Yeah, so let's say, you got Luke Voit, you got Encarnacion, and you have Stanton. Now you can only take 2. Now Voit, again, kind of the unsung hero.
Yeah.
He come over, he's like the natural.
Yeah,
and he's this great hard-nosed player, and he's kind of part of this, surprising Yankee run of the season. So, you want to reward him in some aspect.
You do,
so,
but he hasn't been as good in the second half, and I'm not trying to take anything away from him. I think his injury set him back. So, and the irony there is that the 3 players that you just mentioned, 2 of them play the same positions, while technically Stanton could play a 3rd position, like Voit and Encarnacion, a first baseman DHs, while Stanton is a DH/outfielder. So I would think Stanton will be your starting left fielder now that Hicks is out. Gardner's your starting center fielder. And I think if they had to choose between one of those 2, I think you would see Encarnacion if he was 100%. Really? But I think all 3 will be on the postseason roster, if you're asking me.
That's what I would hope ideally, but I just don't want to see, again, I understand Stanton's ability he'll wreck a game. And like his first game as a Yankee, hit 2 home runs.
Of course.
So it's like this guy could, crush it. But I don't want to see Voit or Encarnacion kind of get bumped up because of Stanton, because he hasn't earned it this season. He is a game wrecker. And
it could be a game.
Could be a potential game wrecker. So I just think they're going to start, Cameron Maybin in the left field. Like, I know Stanton technically is a left field, and I say if it's a regular season game, yes, you would put him out there. But I just feel like you got to go with the best defense possible.
Oh, 100%.
Even if you're sacrificing a great bat like Stanton. And I always hate the situation where a ball gets, hits out in left field and it starts banging around, stuff like that. And Maybin could get to it quicker. I can see with Stanton, again, he's not saying he's a terrible athlete, but he's a lumbering guy. And in the playoffs, I just think defense is the most important thing. And so again, I probably agree with you. Maybe Stanton does make the postseason roster at the end of the day, and maybe they can fit enough guys. Maybe they don't bring as many pitches as we think they would. But I just think they're going to start Maybin out. Because I say, go with the best defense possible. I'd rather have Maybin in left, Gardner in center, Judge in right. Just give you the best opportunity, and you just kind of just do a round robin. Maybe it depends what pitcher they're going against.
I just can't see them benching Stanton though, and I don't think they would put him at DH. I think the Yankees. Listen, Boone will probably play matchups. I think that's what the game is now, all analytics and matchups. But I think if they had to make decisions, the optimal lineup, in my opinion, would be to have Sanchez, of course, come back and be healthy.
That's going to
start behind the plate. I think they'll probably start. If they had to, really, I think they would start Encarnacion at first. I really do.
Well, that's the funny thing. I was going to kind of lead into that. We were talking about defense before. I think defensively, now do you put LeMahieu at 3rd and start Encarnacion at 1st, or you go probably the best defense possible would be Urshela at 3rd and LeMahieu at 1st.
See, that's what I was saying. So what you could do is, it depends matchup. So they probably could put Encarnacion at DH, LeMahieu at 1st, obviously Torres, Didi in the middle with Urshela at 3rd, and then go Stanton, Gardner, Judge in the outfield. And then, depending on the matchups, maybe they play Voit in a game, or they play I think it's all going to be about matchups. I really
Exactly.
do. I could see Maben playing. I could also see him being a defensive replacement.
Oh, definitely, but late
in
inning.
games.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So maybe Stanton gets 3 at bats, and then Cameron's out and left.
That probably maybe that's what makes the most sense. Because definitely ninth inning.
Struggling.
Yeah. And again,
it's possible.
I mean, Maben hit a home run the other night, but again, he was hot just before he got hurt for a while. But so he hasn't been great. But we haven't seen enough from Stanton to really feel confident.
He's one of those players where he's just streaky. I think that's the first thing. He's a very streaky player, and the second thing would be is that I feel like he's just never really become a Yankee yet. Even though he hits 38 home runs last year, there's almost a similar sensation, in my opinion, to how A-Rod was when he first got here. I don't know why.
And it's not,
but maybe because of the expectation, all the
money. But I just think the thing, like they don't.
MVP,
I think
All-Star.
A-Rod more was the personality that they didn't like, and the fact he was kind of a rival of Jeter. So it's the same sort of deal with A-Rod and Stanton. But I just think the venom isn't there, as the Yankee fans saw Stanton, as it was for A-Rod. But it is an opportunity for him. I guess he hasn't had his Yankee moment. Exactly, and maybe this is it, and that would be a great way to
I think the Yankees are going to miss Hicks because of the defense. And the one guy that I think Yankee fans really were taken to that are going to miss so much in the playoffs is Talkin. Mike Talkin, man.
Yeah.
He kind of embodied what they had going on this entire season. Next man up, a guy out of left field, pun intended.
I always thought of him and like Mike Ford as jokes. It's like I was like, come on, like I know they bought him up from the minors. I was like, all right, but it's Cashman trade deadline. You got to get a real left-handed bat. But then he sort of like really turning it on. And
of course,
he was a big Rockies prospect a couple of years ago. And whatever Cashman saw in this
Urshela
guy
too was another prospect that didn't make it, and now he looks like he'll be the starting third baseman for years.
Yeah. So they're in the playoffs, so let's say, the matchups, who are they actually going to face? Now, my mind mentally, I have them as the number 2 seed because I know them and Houston are neck and neck, but Houston a few games ahead, and I just think the Yankees are going to finish a little behind them for a few games. So I'm right now reserved that the Yankees being the number 2 seed, means they play the 3 seed, which is going to be one of the central teams. So you're looking at either the Minnesota Twins, who are up by a couple games, or the Cleveland Indians. So, I mean, if you're the Yankees, you're Aaron Boone, like who would you want to face? Even though you're not supposed to say it, but...
Yeah, I mean, listen, Minnesota hits all those home runs, but the Yankees have really dominated the Twins, especially in the postseason. And again, those are teams from years ago. You watch them play this year, they're kind of very evenly matched ball clubs, and I think the Twins would be a tough opponent for them, but I think if you had to choose between the two, I think the Twins would be easier than the Indians. But the Yankees have also had some success against Cleveland too in the postseason, It'll be interesting matchups for them. I think the Yankees match up well with everyone but the Houston Astros, and that's not really saying anything bad because you could make a case that the Astros might be the very best team in baseball.
And they're more complete, and they're actually tougher than when the Yankees faced them in 2017. And 2018, I know Boston knocked them off.
Cole.
And having Cole as well. So it's gonna be tough to have. But if I'm the Yankees, I agree with you 100%. I'd rather go after the Twins. It's just like the confidence level, the track record, and plus Cleveland. Those games, you go, especially in Cleveland. They got the boom, 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 boom. It's a very nerve-wracking place to play. Minnesota, it's like okay, they have fans, but they're not like rabid fans. Like you just go to Cleveland, it's just like a tough environment. Even though the Yankees have they had success there a couple of seasons ago, I'd rather face the Twins. And then if you're moving forward, of course, now you look at the other teams in the wild card hunt. You have Tampa right on the heels. You got Oakland on the heels as well. Let's just say, one of them by some miracle knock off.
Oakland maybe.
I mean, let's say Oakland was a very good pitch. Let's say they come in somehow, they get the wild card, and they knock off the Houston Astros. I mean, which one of those lesser wild card teams would you rather face? Would you rather go up at Tampa?
Yeah, the Yankees have struggled with the A's too this year. I think the only thing you'd probably say about that, and fans might agree too on this, is it is tough during the regular season to have to fly out to the West Coast, and I know all the teams do it, but it might be very jarring at that particular point. In a playoff series, you kind of start, of course, from
scratch,
yeah. So I would think the Yankees would be better prepared for a West Coast swing during the playoffs as opposed to maybe during the regular season. I think that the Yankees I would prefer or hope to see maybe a team like Oakland as opposed to having to face the Astros, because for some reason, as good as the Yankees have been at home, the Astros are the same way, if not better, in their home ballpark. Definitely. They'll be a tough team, especially if that series goes the distance, if they have the home field advantage. I could see Houston doing it again and maybe beating the Yankees in 7. But I think Yankee fans would agree with this as well. This has just been their kind of year. So if there was a year where they could upset a team and win in 7 games, even a team like Houston that might be better than them, I think this would be the year.
So we're talking about all these new Yankees on Like a Show, but what about one of the old veterans like Brett Gardner, who I think he had his best season ever probably as a Yankee.
What a season by Brett Gardner.
Most home runs ever he's hit. So now the question, do you bring him back next year, or do you kind of promote Clint Frazier, who I love as well?
So I think you got to sign Gardner back for at least a one-year deal. And I think Frazier will be with the Yankees. I think he's another guy that for some reason hasn't really completely fit in, but the talent is there. And unless the Yankees in the offseason maybe find a pitcher that they would be willing to part with Frazier for, then I would definitely assume that he would be back, because the Yankees have injury problems in the outfield. Judge, at his size, as great as he is, he tends to get hurt. Stanton, of course, gets hurt. Hicks, who I know Cashman loves because he got him for nothing, and he also kind of found him. He discovered Aaron Hicks. So he's not going anywhere. And he's also signed for like another 6 or 7 years.
So you kind of stuck with him anyway.
So he's stuck out there, but injury prone, very injury prone.
Exactly.
So, you know, Gardner, even at 36, man, he has proven that he's still
amazing
got it, man.
And he wasn't supposed to play it all this season. Like, he was supposed to be a kind of part-time left fielder, but, you know, pretty much with Stanton gone all season, and, you know, the whole thing up and down with Frazier. Well, at first he was like kind of like the everyday left fielder, and then when Hicks goes down, he becomes the everyday left center fielder, and center field's more taxing than left field. But he's actually gotten better with the whole thing, so it's miraculous. I think if there's a way you can bring him back, I do it. I don't know if I do it at the expense of Clint Frazier, because I just think, I love Frazier. as good as Gardner is, Frazier,
yeah, as a talent.
He's hardly been here this season. He already has like over, you know, like 11, 12 home runs.
12, I believe.
Yeah, so imagine if he played an entire season. So, and the ball just jumps off his bat. Like when he hits it, it's crushed. So I know he has to work on the defense, and, you know, there's a lot to be expected there. But yeah, I would only bring back Gardner, but I don't want to do it at the expense of Clint Frazier. So we'll see what happens. Maybe, you know, maybe it means Mike Topman doesn't come back or something like that.
I think Topman would come back. I think the odd man out would probably be Maben if I had to.
Yeah, well, I mean, I see him more as a stopgap guy. Anything they got this season anyway.
So Maben would be odd man out,
and I think it's good for him. He gets to showcase himself this season, and then maybe next season a team like the White Sox to give him a one-year deal, which I think, you know, I don't think the Yankees signed
a starter somewhere.
Exactly. So I don't think the Yankees, you know, you can go to the Mets or something, you know. So
maybe.
But yeah, I just don't see them bringing back Maben. But yeah, I would love to see Gardner back, and I think we'd bring back.
I think Topman will be back. I think the Yankees really like him.
Mm-hmm. And it could be so, yeah, because like you said before, Cashman, I think when he finds these guys, he wants to almost like, you know, keep them and kind of like showcase, hey, look what I did, without, you know, spending a lot of money.
That'll be the interesting thing too, because you wonder what they're going to do with. They have so many guys that they're about to have to pay. You know, at some point, Gleyber Torres is going to make a ridiculous amount of money. At some point, Judge is going to make a ridiculous amount of money. Sanchez, Stanton's already making so much money and signed for so many more years. Hicks is locked up for so many more years. Severino now. So does Betances really come back? You know, does Didi Gregorius come back?
I think that's good, because really, I mean, naturally, the Yankees don't need him back in a way, because you could just slot Gleyber Torres back at shortstop, his natural position. You have LeMahieu signed for another season, so that could be your second baseman. Or Scheller at third. Well, we don't know what's going to happen with Andujar.
But so play first, maybe.
They could let Didi walk. It's not like they're forced to sign, but I just think Didi is such a character, such a personality. I think if there's a way, and because the Yankees don't have a ton of left-handed power hitters,
they could use him in the middle.
Exactly. So I think they do bring him back, but again, they're not forced to. So if Didi, for some reason, him and his agent just, you know, give the Yankees some ridiculous, you know, stalemate, the Yankees might say, all right, goodbye. We go put, you know, Gleyber Torres there. But I would like to see Didi back as well.
I would love to see him back, but I do think Torres will probably be the starting shortstop next year. But you never know. I think that's why this is the year that the Yankees have to win it all, because they have some guys that they're going to have to pay. Like even Chapman. You know, you could see Chapman being gone because he might want to opt out and have a bigger contract, in which case then the Yankees could go and make Britton the closer or Ottavino the closer. It would weaken their bullpen, but it would also save the money.
And I wouldn't mind saying, I mean, I like Chapman this season. He bounced back good, but I don't think, you know, if he wants to like kind of try to get a bigger deal, like somebody, I mean, CeCe did a little bit, but I think it's a different situation. CeCe's a starter. I mean, you can almost say goodbye to Chapman, use that money, and if you're going to use that money to whether it's someone's guy or use it on Didi, because again, of the two, even though Chapman's great, it's good to have a good closer. An everyday player like Didi is much more valuable than even a great closer.
Yankees will have to make decisions on a lot of guys. Encarnacion is one.
He'll probably walk. I mean, you know.
Depends.
Again, that's the kind of guy they kind of picked up. You know, he's been tremendous this season, and he's saved their bacon a lot of ways. Another interesting one is going to be Greg Bird. I mean, do they finally give up on him, or?
I think they could give him another shot in spring training, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they tried to move him. I just wonder what they would get for him at this point. As talented as he is, he's so injury prone and hasn't been able to stay healthy. Would the Yankees be able to get anything for Bird?
Yeah, and it could be he could be a package deal, like, you know, him and Frazier for, like I said, maybe a relevant, you know, good pitcher. So I look at Arabu now. I mean, his first 2 seasons as a manager, he gets 100 wins each. It's the first time anyone's done that. It's pretty remarkable. I just always go back and kind of ask every guest the same thing. I just always feel Girardi got a raw deal, because I know he's with the Yankees for a long time, but kind of like not discovered, but he was kind of there at the low point in 2016. And then, they have the breakout season in 2017. And Judge has an incredible career, and all these guys break out. And he gets one game away from the World Series, and then they don't bring him back. With a young team. And they kind of like say thank you by saying, all right, well, we're going to let you go and go to Aaron Boone. I don't know. I just feel like Aaron Boone's an okay manager, but again, we don't really know how much of this is really Aaron Boone, or how much is this having a really good team. I mean, what do you think?
So this would be the one comment I think I would make about managers, right? You look at Joe Torre, right? Ends up being one of the greatest managers in Yankee history. When he comes here, really didn't have much of a track record, but then goes on to have an illustrious career, now a Hall of Famer. Even that guy, as great as he was, as many championships as he won, eventually he kind of wore out his welcome, right? And that tends to be the position of someone that's a head coach or a manager. No matter how great they are, almost all of them are hired to eventually be fired. So Girardi won a World Series, had them competitive year in and year out, but I think the logic is at some point that maybe clubhouses need a different voice. So even as good as Boone has been in the first 2 years, probably expect him to manage, maybe if he does well for 10 years, maybe win a World Series, hopefully many World Series. He's got the kind of team, he's got the kind of team to win a couple. And then more than likely at some point, even if he's as great as Girardi was or Torre was, they'll find someone else too. I do think that Cashman and Girardi did butt heads though. I mean, I'm speculating. But it seemed like they might have had differences of opinion.
Yeah, because I think Cashman had some of his guys. Look, I got this guy in because statistics showed X, Y, Z, and Girardi used. I think one was Chris Carter.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, I understand you bring him on. I mean, he hit like 40 home runs, and he comes here. It was just terrible, and supposedly Cashman wanted him to play more, so they butted heads of that, and that was the whole deal. I think I heard also too that Cashman wasn't happy with the whole Girardi blowing up on the field with Chapman that time. I think Chapman didn't cover home plate, and he brought the translator out, and he was screaming like on national TV. It was like, you kind of do that in-house a little bit.
I mean, listen, there's no doubt that Girardi's a very good manager. He was National League Manager of the Year with the Marlins. He won a World Series with the Yankees. I think he would be a good fit for several teams now. If I was the Mets, he'd be the first guy I would call. Yeah. If I was, the Mets, I think Callaway's done an okay job, but I think he'd be a better pitching coach like he was in Cleveland. And the Mets should go and get Joe Girardi. And as far as Aaron Boone is concerned, I'm very happy with the job that he's done.
Well, thanks, Bobby, for a little postseason chat. So now, where can viewers or listeners find you?
So BronxNet Open Monday and Friday, live on the live show Open, and then I also have my own sports show on BronxNet called Sports NYC. And in addition to being the sports director of BronxNet, I'm the sports director at WFUV 90.7 FM. So kind of a little bit all over the place.
Jack of all trades.
Jack of all trades, but very excited to have been on the show with you today. I think you do an incredible job. I really do. It's great to see someone with as much passion for the Yankees as me. My mom passed away in August, and she introduced me to Yankee baseball at a very young age. And I've been coming to the ballpark for a long time. It's pretty cool to be a reporter, but there's really nothing like being a Yankee fan. So even when I'm up in the press box, there's still
that little fandom is always there.
That is rooting for the Yankees to win the World Series. So I might be biased. Hopefully my views were pretty good for you this morning, but very excited to see the Yankees in the postseason. I appreciate you having me on the show.
Thanks for coming. We hope you enjoyed the show. Wish good luck to the Yankees in October. Now I got to run off to another show. I got these guys waiting for me. See you later.